All right. Good morning, everybody. It's your Self Shift crew back for another podcast. And we've got an interesting subject today, which sounds a little bit morbid at first looking at it, but it actually has been at least very pertinent for my life. And it's Memento Mori. Remember, you must die. So I know that sounds kind of weird, but let's start with it from a motivational, from an optimistic standpoint. And here's a quote that is uncredited, but what if I told you that remembering death could be the key to living fully, right? So let's jump right into it and give a little bit of history. Memento Mori is a concept that goes back, I guess thousands of years actually, from ancient Rome as it relates to, I think that the story that I heard is that when generals would do parades and they would be at the top of their game, so to speak, and they would have to be reminded to keep their ego in check because tomorrow they may be on a battlefield in not such a good place, right? So keep in mind, all of us, that life is limited and you should use that as a forcing function to live the life that you really, really need to live. So although it sounds a little bit morbid out of the gate, at least for me, I use it as a motivational component, right? And I'll kick it off with, something, at least for my own life was, I remember this probably I was 48 or 49. And, when you're a young person, if you look at the runway of your life, it goes on forever. There's no end to the runway. And I remember, about 10 years ago, I was looking down the runway of my life and there was a light down there. It's still very far away, but I could see a light down there. And I realized the my life was not infinite and that truly needed to focus on my values, what was important to me, both from a career perspective and from a personal perspective, because time was limited. So, and I did. I changed the way I thought about things, realizing that I don't have eternity to get things done that I want to get done or to do the things that I want to do. So let's kick it off here with Doug. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I know I had heard this phrase through you related to kind of stoic philosophy and other things. And I don't know that I was truly internalizing what it could mean in those kinds of things. So it was one of the reasons I was happy we are doing the topic today. But, you know, like you were saying, it sounds kind of morbid and it sort of sounds like it's saying focus on the fact that you're going to die, but it's really saying remember you're going to die, which should make you focus on appreciating the life that you currently have. And, also kind of tying it back to mindfulness that we talk about all the time. Mindfulness is about being present, and in your present day, you have to learn to appreciate, like, and be grateful. I'm alive, I'm still kicking, and I need to recognize that experiencing experiences I'm having today, things I'm going through today, things in the present, I should be more appreciative of them. I shouldn't take them for granted because at some point I will die. So each day is this opportunity to embrace life and really focus on the current and the present and focus on what's the most important way to spend your time. I know we'll probably dig into that much deeper. That's what I'll say for now. Yeah.
Gratitude, gratitude on that. Derek, what are your thoughts?
I think for a lot of people, death is something that they fear, the morbid, and it's something that will bring forth that kind of energy in your life, and it will cause you to not explore and discover or take risk or whatever the case may be. But what I found is when you are present and you're aware and you're connected with self and you're, alive and well, you don't really think about death anymore because you think of it from the standpoint of like, I'm going to make the most of this moment that I have now. And you're not focused on the end of what could be. And it really brings a sense of peace to you. And I think the wrap that up is when you shift from fear to peace and dying, then you're no longer bound by that morbidity of it. So that's what I would say.
No, no, that's really good. I'm going to tie what you both said there together. It's like from I think we all know that I like to read Stoic literature, and I read Ryan Holiday's, Daily Stoic every day. And for the Stoics, death wasn't something to be feared. It was actually a teacher, right? But rather a teacher, a reminder to live in accordance with your nature and values, right? And, to quote Marcus Aurelius, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think now. So if we distill this down, there are a couple of key things that it means to me. Prioritize what truly matters, right? You've got to prioritize what truly matters. And for me, that means don't sweat the small stuff. I know that's very cliche. And stop procrastinating, because I am historically was a horrible procrastinator. So I found myself today and Doug, you've reinforced this in many of these discussions. Take action. Some action. Take some action, even if it's not the full thing. Action begets motivation. So I try to practice that every day, even if I know something is not spot on or it could be misinterpreted. I'm going to take action. Use it as a forcing function. Live with presence. Again, Doug, you talked about it and you did as well, Derek. Be mindful. Shift your mindset from someday to today, right? And what closely aligns with that, at least for me, is reducing fear of failure. Because along with procrastination, which I think my procrastination actually is probably based in the fact that, trying to be a perfectionist and really fearing failure, is you got to accept that sometimes you're going to fail. It's okay. We're all human. And again, take action, even if it could result in embarrassment, because at the end of the day, if you're accepting what is and living according to your values, you really, really can't go wrong. And something, again, that you both mentioned during this conversation is gratitude, right? I think that, along with mindfulness, of course, Doug, is being grateful. And I meditate, every morning when I'm doing my meditation, I start off by identifying three things that I'm grateful for, right? Could be minor stuff. Literally, I got a new laptop at work last week. I'm so grateful for it because it really actually made me, more functional. I'm grateful for these new tennis shoes that I got so I can get back into running. Just things like that. Grateful for, a nice lunch or taking a walk during the day, around the office. It doesn't have to be anything big, but want what you already have. That, to me, that's really, really neat. And also building resilience, right? When you're focusing on the fact that, I'm not infinite and I've got limited time on the earth to do what I want, and also to positively impact others' lives, right? I think we've talked about it before. Actions that you take that you may consider small could resonate in somebody's life for many, many years, right? And I really took that to heart, just over the last week. I've got a couple of nephews that I, don't see as much as I should, right? And these are young kids, one's be a freshman at Trinity next year and one's still in grade school. And it dawned on me, I could really help these kids, teach them to play golf or whatever the case may be. And that could impact them positively for many, many years. So anyway, that was a long-winded rambling statement there, but what do you guys think? How anything that resonates with you
Go
guys?
ahead, Derek.
Yeah, I'll say one of my favorite shifts in my life was, or one of the shifts in my life occurred when I read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, spiritual teacher. And, in that, one of the biggest takeaways I had from that book was all you ever got is now, right? So the moment that presents itself is all you got, right? And so you're not guaranteed the next moment. So to your point of like, living present, being grateful, practicing mindfulness and being connected to yourself in the moment of now will totally will totally take you to where you have the life that you want. You have the peace that you want. You have and you're not worried about the moment of death, right? I just think that's when you live from that perspective, death no longer really truly exists for you because I feel like that you are at peace and happy with what is now in your
So
life.
I'll jump in and I'll share. I had this recent experience. And again, because we take time and we talk amongst each other about these things, we've talked about how it's a useful use of our time. Then when I'm doing other things I do, there's often these intersections of these thoughts and themes. And it's like, wow, it's even more powerful because, we've talked about it and then I hear it from these other sources. So I was listening to this podcast and the guest on the show was this really interesting guy named Jordan Grummett. And this guy was a hospice doctor in his life. So he got to experience people, living their life and getting to their end of life and learning kind of what, as they're winding down their life, what are their regrets and things like that. But not only that, the guy is a podcaster. He's a financial advisor podcaster and he's an author and he wrote a book called The Purpose Code. But like the really interesting thing is he weaves across these different things like these very powerful thoughts around purpose and around regret and regret anchors. So like with the hospice work, he really learned like the big things people regret at the end of their life are, like you were saying, Patrick, not taking risks or not living an authentic life to themselves. Like they lived a life that was for somebody else, or not fixing relationships or not spending time with loved ones and things like that. And he kind of has brought it all together into thinking about like living with purpose. And for him, his purpose is not like, he makes this big distinction between big P purpose and little p purpose. And he's advocating for little p purpose. And so big P purpose is, you say, I want to change the world, or I want to, you set these really lofty goals that are really hard to achieve and actually are kind of pass fail. Like you may or may not achieve them. But he advocates for, no, you want to identify the things that give you joy, the things that you enjoy spending time doing, and you want to live with little p purpose. And little p purpose is about the process of actually doing the things on a daily basis, regular basis, and all these kinds of things. And that changes it from this, like, will I ever achieve that goal, to no, just figure out things you enjoy doing, things that give you joy, things that that you're passionate about, and spend your time doing it. And again, since life is fleeting, since life at some point stops, you will focusing more on kind of spending more time doing things that give you joy and passion. That's the things to do. The guy was just sort of like, everything he was saying, I was just like eating up, because I was like, wow, this is really, really amazing thoughts. And I'm sorry to ramble, but one other point to make is like a lot of people, and so we're parents, we have kids. A lot of people are trying to figure out, what's my purpose, what's my thing, and they're really expecting something to happen that just sort of tells them your purpose is to go, you know, invent electric cars, or buy a company that invented electric cars and tank the economy. Sorry, but but it's not like, it's not going to reveal itself to you. What you have to do is identify things that you enjoy doing and go. Purpose isn't going to just come out of nowhere and say, here you go. You got to spend time doing things that you find enjoyable and that you like, and you will live that little p purpose and find that little p purpose. Okay, sorry. That was my rant.
No, dude, that was really powerful. And let me riff on that a little bit. It's like when you accept the impermanence of life, like you were describing, your flaws, or your pain, your past, you really gain the power to act on what matters most, right? Because, I don't control everything, but I do control how I show up. And I also can live with intention. And Derek, that's what you were kind of double clicking a few minutes ago with your talk about Eckhart Tolle, is live with intent, not just reaction, right? Be clear on your values. This is important to me. Like for example, right now, one of the things that's really resonating with me is, how can I show up better for others that I can truly help, like my nephews, right? And so that's become, a value of mine. It is a value of mine, to be able to help folks that, can benefit from, the experiences that I've had or whatever, and then take committed action. Don't wait for something like, hey, next Saturday we're going to go to the golf range and just learn how to hit golf balls, or we're going to take a hike, nephews, or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
And again, and I'll give you credit. You've reinforced this so many times, is taking action. Take some action, even if it's in the wrong direction. Not hopefully not the wrong direction, but maybe to the left, to the right, not completely towards the middle. It helps because you can course correct, and then when you get the action going, it may be hard, may be uncomfortable, may even be scary, but you've taken some action, right? And those Stoics pretty smart back in the day, and some of the wisdom they've passed along has at least been very beneficial for me, because a lot of the stuff that we read as it relates to modern mental health, you can actually relate that directly to some Stoic behavior. So, anyway, Derek.
Well, I would just offer a bit of a twist to this, is by not doing all those things you said, talked about, maybe consider that you're dying right now. Like, death doesn't have to be like physical, that you stop breathing. Death could be that you kill yourself every day because you're not living with intent, you're not living to your values, you're not being passionate, you're not taking action for those things that you want to have in your life that's going to better you, make you live that full, connected, vibrant life that everybody wants, right? Everybody on the planet wants harmony, peace, joy, happiness, contentment, and they just don't know how to find it. And in that pursuit of it, they kill themselves because they make bad choices to go get addicted to things, or they get associated with things that's not good for your health or your well-being, and you're just like killing yourself. It's a slow death to your mortality. And so that's a little bit of a twist I would put on this today is don't kill yourself every day by not living to living to your passion, living to your values, making decisions, going after what you want, taking action immediately, living with intent, you know. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. And I would say, Derek, sometimes what you described is, death of the spirit or death of the authentic
Yeah.
self is
Right.
worse than physical death. So,
Yes. Yes.
and I'm sorry, Doug,
You
you're going to say something.
I have something, yeah. I mean, just to your
Got it.
point, Dave, or
Yeah, go ahead.
Derek, you said the thing, like YOLO, right? People like to say you only live once. It's like, no, you only die once. You live every day, right? There's a famous person said that, but
Mm-hmm.
the thing
That's awesome.
I'm a data guy, so if you want to have some perspective, right, like step back and start to quantify things in life. So, there's a famous book, I think Oliver Berkman maybe, but there's 4,000 weeks in a typical life, right? And if you think about how many weeks are behind you, like you talked about the light at the end there, Patrick, but you only have so many weeks ahead of you, and start maximizing those weeks and what your experiences of those weeks. Even to break it down even closer, there's 168 hours in a week, and half those hours or some amount of those hours you'll be sleeping. How do you get value? How do you live in the rest of those hours in a week? And you keep hitting it, Patrick. Take action, do something, get after it. It's your time is fleeting and it's passing you. And the other sort of, even to your point about spending time with your nephews, if you really step back and say, like, how many trips did you take with your kids each year? You probably thought, like, man, we got to do this again, another week of kids fighting, or kids whining about things or whatever, but you only probably took 10, 15 trips with them, and that was it, right? And so, like, if you really quantify, and how many more trips might you take with your kids? Maybe 5, 10 in your life. Like, you really start to appreciate there's not that much there, and you have to maximize it.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about the yearly vacations, which I've been completely remiss, to be transparent. It's not that I don't go, but I usually just work farther at the beach, which is probably not the best thing. But you're right. I hadn't quantified it. Like, you get 15 to 20 of those. And that's really, really important. And I'm going to give let me give some practical things. So Memento Mori has been part of my life for at least a decade. But when I first started, like, reminding myself that I've got limited time, I actually had a coin. I don't know if you can see it there, but I don't know why they've always put skeletons on them. But anyway, that to remind me as a visual reminder that I had limited time, right? I don't care anymore because it's just kind of baked into the fact that I need to live with intention, and that, time is not infinite. Also daily journal, right? The fact that to reinforce, what did I do well yesterday? What could I have done better? What 3 things am I grateful for? And what must I get done today? Things that are aligned with my values, right? And then I check it the next morning to see, did I actually do those things? Also meditation, right? And we reinforce this so many times. And I'm not saying you sit there and you meditate over death. That's not what we're saying. But there is an impermanence to life. So meditation helps you to ground and to focus on your values, right? Or it allows you to align, at least for me, having that sense of presence and intention, and to align with, do a values check-in, right? After meditation, is the thing that I'm going to do it today aligned with the person that I want to be, right? Is something that I'm going to do now or tomorrow um, aligned with what my future self should really look like, what I want that future self to be. And once you have that realization, you make different decisions. You may not do something that you had planned to do, or you may say no to something that you should have said no to. Or to, like you were saying, Derek, earlier, is living the life, and you mentioned it as well, Doug, the authentic and genuine, as opposed to what you think people want you to do or whatever. So anyway, that was a bit of a ramble there, but and we are getting, I think, pretty close on time here. So let's go around the room. Derek.
Well, I mean, back to what I said earlier. I mean, all you ever got is now, so make the best of it. I think that time is limited. You are gonna die at some point in your life. So don't kill yourself today by not living the life that you want.
Yeah, I would
Doug?
just reinforce that whole thing about little p purpose. Don't focus on the big lofty goal, but focus on every day using part of your time to do things you enjoy and identify, if you can find something you enjoy doing that also has a way of making you money and things like that, then do those things. But remember that there's going to be a point when you're in hospice or you're dying and you're going to have regret. So reframe the regret into what can I do now to avoid the regret later.
Yeah. And one of the things that I do, Doug, just to riff on that, is visualizing my future self and him looking back at me. Was that the decision that I should have made? Right? Did I really make the right decision there? That really helps aligning with your future self, with that with what you want your future self to be.
And,
And Doug, you forgot one
you
thing.
can tend to be hard on yourself. Be kind to yourself.
Yourself. And I'll just add on to that. Be curious, not judgmental. All right, guys, we're signing off.
Awesome.
Have a great week.